Big play after big play, y'all. Welcome back to Street Scores. It's your boy Rico giving y'all that 2017 Week 10 review edition of Redskins Report. Time to get into this analysis. Let's get it.
Why did he? What is that?
Our offense-heavy 38-30 loss to the Vikings had 74,476 fans in attendance at FedEx Field. We are now 4-5 on the season, below 500. We are still tied for first in the NFL in record in close games with 100%. This game wasn't close enough to affect that stat, but y'all already know I'm about to hit y'all with these stats this entire episode. Same thing every time, but now it's time to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly, starting with the offense. After week 10, our offense is now tied for first in points scored on first offensive possessions with 37, coming out hot. I love it. We are now first in the NFC in average number of plays per scoring drive, so we like to run long developing drives when we score, and there's a lot more stats we should be proud of, but I'm gonna stop here and start my breakdown of the head honcho. Kirk Cousins completed 26 of his 45 pass attempts for 327 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 16 first downs, and 1 interception. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had the exact type of game that brings about all of the controversy surrounding his contract talks in progress. He made a lot of great plays that not many quarterbacks in the NFL can make, but he also couldn't make enough to win the game. But there's a lot of blame to be placed on the wide receivers, offensive line, and defense this game, but I'm gonna get to those areas later. Back on to Kirk, who had the 7th highest QBR of week 10 quarterbacks with a 77.5. Let me start with his negatives. One thing that was annoying to me throughout the game was his inability to move his feet in the pocket and escape pressure while keeping his eyes down the field to see open receivers. It's harder than it sounds, but great quarterbacks do this, and if he wants great quarterback money, he has to be able to do this too, consistently. For example, on this play, the Vikings got pressure from the left and forced Kirk to throw the ball away, but if Kirk just simply maneuvered to the left and extended the play, he could have made something shake. Kirk was also inaccurate at times, like on this play where Josh Doctson is open for a touchdown after Pryor took away the deep safety. Kirk just simply overthrew it. He was also inaccurate on a few completions. I know the highest level of a casual fan can't possibly understand how a complete pass could be inaccurate, but look at this play where if Kirk didn't overthrow the ball, Chris Thompson would have had an easy touchdown.
He's not the running track. Get it on. Cousins stands in, firing deep. He's got Thompson. He's got it.
And what sucks the most about this is that we ended up only getting a field goal in a game where every point counted. Kirk also made a few bad decisions. For example, on his interception, there was pressure coming, I know, but he could have either thrown it to another receiver or just simply taken the sack here.
Here's Cousins. Has time. High, it's intercepted.
Anything is better than that, man. Now for the positives. Kirk threw some straight dots out there Sunday. Like this huge touchdown to start the game off.
On first down, another fake. Cousins going for it all. Deep far sideline. What a catch! No.
I feel like he's coming down. Let's take a look again. Catch. Pulling it in. He's hitting inbounds and hitting the pylon.
Great throw, Kirk. And here's another dot to send y'all home with.
Have that one instead. It's a 3rd down. Cousins has time. Got a loft it deep. He's got Crowder again. And this time he's got it.
Kirk also had a few moments where he was able to make plays through pressure. Not all pressure had him flustered. On this play, Samaje was late at getting to the linebacker, so Kirk was forced to use his feet, escape, and get a little out of nothing. And here's a play where Kirk could sense pressure and threw the ball earlier than he would have liked in order to pick up the first down. And for my final positive, that boy Kirk was out there beating his feet again.
Second and goal. Cousins, keeper.
There wasn't much speed involved, but he willingly took that contact and fell forward, making a play on the ground. So, overall, he had great moments and he had bad moments. But if receivers caught more of Kirk's passes, Kirk would have looked great. There were drop touchdowns and receivers tripping over nothing in the end zone, but I'm going to talk about that later. Now on to this damaged offensive line, like I say every week, because they still hurt. Some starters came back, but they came back a little too early, which was especially prevalent in the play of two people I'm going to talk about soon. Trent Williams wasn't himself out there, still clearly hurt, but he played well, just not as dominant as he would have been if he were healthy, and he was way better than that perfectly healthy TJ Clemens who was taking his place these past few games. Morgan Moses was better than he has been the past few weeks, but that's because he's healing up as weeks go by. He wasn't his best because he's still a little bit hurt, so when he is fully healthy, he should be back to being great again. I saw signs of progress and I'm happy. Sean Laval was some straight butt again. No real injury concerns, he's just not that good. Look at this play where Sean Laval got beat something serious, y'all. Throwing around like a little brother.
Here's Cousins. Last time. High, and it's intercepted. Here's Cousins. Here's Cousins.
This forced Kirk to throw off his back foot and overthrow, which resulted in the interception I showed earlier. We just need to start Lyriq Harper over Laval. For real. The game was back and forth until this moment, and the Vikings scored 3 touchdowns in a row, with this play being the bridge between the 3 touchdowns. Laval has gone from lousy luck Laval to just lousy left guard Laval. Again, please start Lyriq Harper. Spencer Long, one of the people who came back to the starting lineup too early, looked even worse than Laval. His injuries killed him, and I know he's not worse than Laval when he's fully healthy. I mean, it got to the point where he gave up and had Chase Rollier go fill in for him mid-game. I respect him for at least testing out his injury, but he hurt us doing it. Chase Rollier, who filled in for him, had a decent game. I appreciate this rookie for filling in when necessary and for the most part having some good games. He came in mid-game and did his thing. Much respect. Brandon Sheriff, who was a hurt Pro Bowler, was out there looking more hurt than Pro Bowlish. He also came back too soon. He looked nothing like himself out there. On this play here, Sheriff, because of his injury, was too slow to pick up a stunt that he easily would have picked up when he was healthy.
3rd and 10. Cousins. Pressure. In trouble. Down he goes. 3rd and 10. Cousins. Pressure. In trouble.
Just ugh. And on 4th and 1, we had a good run play design, but Sheriff simply got beat, and Chris Thompson got tackled for a loss. We need Sheriff healthy, y'all, because this was not him against the Vikings. This was just a shell of himself, and he's so dominant when he's healthy. We need you back, bro. Get well soon. Now the running backs. Rob Kelly was, he didn't show good vision in the very few plays he played before he got hurt. His best quality right now is getting a couple of yards out of nothing, but he just isn't good with seeing where he is supposed to run. His problems are all mental. Vision and decision making needs work, but he got hurt early in the game, so get well soon, Rob. Chris Thompson did what Chris Thompson does. Make plays when he gets the opportunity. On the ground, he made a lot of nothing on this run here.
North Turner, the offensive coordinator, left in the middle of the year. Here's Thompson breaking free. Chris Thompson, nice run.
Great run. I mean, I'm almost starting to expect stuff like this from him now. And on this pass play here, Chris Thompson ran a nice route and made a great catch.
Get it on. Cousins stands in, firing deep. He's got Thompson. He's got it inside the 10.
I see you, Chris. And this was a great play design by Jay Gruden. 2 receivers caused traffic for the linebacker responsible for Chris Thompson, and Chris Thompson beats him easily to get wide open. I want us to run this a lot more often, actually. Run it till they stop it. Samaje Perine, who got a lot more opportunity than normal, showed a lot of potential against the Vikings. And he always had it. He just has a fumbling problem that I didn't see on his college tape. Maybe he just picked that up. And he also cut slow, like physically, not mentally. He sees where he's supposed to go and cut, but he just doesn't have the feet for it yet. I saw that in his college tape though, and it's still the case in the NFL. But that can be worked on, so I'm not worried. Luckily for us and him, he already possesses qualities that are harder to teach than cutting. He made some nice runs against the Vikings. He even had a couple of nice cuts, but his catching ability is hard to teach, and he has that. Like, look at this play right here.
2nd and 5. There's a blitz. They're going to dump it off and get rid of it. It works beautifully. P-Ryan has a first. Breaks a tackle. P-Ryan inside the 40.
My boy Samaje makes it look easy. And then he had a nice run after the catch. I appreciate it. I also appreciate Samaje for helping Kirk get into the end zone on that very sloppy QB sneak where Kirk was almost standing straight up trying to get in the end zone after he bobbled the snap.
A sneak by Cousins. Did he get enough? Still pushing. Cousins. Did he get enough? Still pushing.
Man, Samaje, we appreciate you. We just need you to cut better and keep better balance. You shouldn't be getting tackled by your shoestring, but still, good game. Our tight ends. Another game without Jordan Reed. Pretty typical. Kind of used to it at this point. Jeremy Sprinkle blocked pretty well. Not great, but you can see the potential. Vernon Davis had 7 catches for 76 yards. He was great in the passing game, as usual, minus a couple of plays like a drop on a difficult catch that I still think he could have made, and a route he ran where he was the focus on the play, but couldn't get separation against Eric Kendricks, who was way slower than him. But he let Nas down again with some of his blocking plays, but he had some good blocking at times, so that's just the usual from him. Our wide receivers, Maurice Harris, fresh off the practice squad, had the play of the game. Some people are saying it's better than that Odell catch.
On first down, another fake. Cousins going for it all. Deep far sideline. What a catch, no!
I think he wasn't in bounds. You nailed it. Let's take a look and see. Working on Trey Waynes, number 26. He catches it with the one arm. I feel like he's coming down. Let's take a look again. Catch. Pulling it in. He's hitting inbounds and hitting the pylon. I take a hard look at this if I'm Washington.
That's a touchdown.
The refs didn't want to give it to him at first. They didn't believe my boy Mo had it in him. They like, that couldn't have been inbounds. But my boy Mo made some good plays. He had 2 catches for 50 yards, and I want him to get more targets if he's capable of doing that some more. He also was pretty good in blocking. It had some good blocks, like right here. And he also had a couple of bad blocking plays in the run game, but he had a good game overall. I see you, Mo. Jamison Crowder made some splash plays like this one with some nice route running and a good run after the catch.
This much today. Cousins has time. Cousins over the middle. He's got Crowder. First down and more. Inside the 20. Still going.
And this one where he ran a good route and made a good catch.
The football. He's got to have that one. Instead, it's a third down. Cousins has time. Got a loft it deep. He's got Crowder again. And this time he's got it.
But he also dropped way too many passes. He had one huge drop in the end zone when he allowed a Vikings defender to just force it out of his hands. Gotta do better, Jamison. You let Nas down a few times. 4 drops is way too many. But he had a decent game overall. Just gotta catch better, man. For real, for real. Josh Doxson was tragic against the Vikings. That's why I used a low quality picture for him. He don't deserve HD today. The only plays he made were in the zone coverage. But he couldn't get any separation against top 5 corner Xavier Rhodes. He was getting locked up pretty much all game. And one of the very few times he was ever open, he fell down for no reason on an easy touchdown throw. That was a huge letdown. This was definitely his worst game of the season, without a doubt. Some regression from our future star. It looked like Mo Harris space jammed away some of his powers before the game started. But I'm expecting him to bounce back next week. Ryan Grant looked good before he got hurt, making some plays early, but got hurt and had a very unfortunate early exit, so get well soon. And Terrell Pryor was just there. Played on 28 snaps, but was never targeted. He got open a few times, but the ball never flew his way. Tragic. I was so excited to see what he could do during the offseason. Huge disappointment so far. He looks like he doesn't even want it enough, but at least he's saying good things in the media. He ain't making a whole debacle out of it, so I respect that. But overall, the offense was explosive at times and stale at times. They made some big splash plays, but they also folded on great opportunities to win the game. But if you told me that the Redskins would score 30 points against a top 3 defense in the NFL, I would have sworn we would win. I would have sworn up and down that we got that dub. So I can't be too mad at the offense because they scored 30 points, but they also pretty much handed the Vikings 7 points after that interception. But I like that we have big play potential. We just need to get more consistent. And also, we can move the ball as much as we want it, but we just get so inconsistent in the red zone. We were 2 of 4 and they were 5 of 5, which takes me to the defense. Overall, the defense was not good. At least not as good as we're used to seeing them from this new and improved defense of this season. We still have some very key injuries, but there's no excuse for some of the big plays we gave gave up. As a whole, they were trash in the first half, but they began to rally behind DJ Swearingen's great plays and energy in the second half. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Now let's talk about these trenches. With Matt Ioannidis and Jonathan Allen still out for a considerable amount of times, the trenches looked like they were missing their best defensive linemen. None of the defensive linemen played great against the Vikings. Everybody but Ziggy Hood gets talked about with one picture this week. The rest of them don't deserve individual pictures. Ziggy Hood was the most impactful or least invisible of the 5 defensive linemen we played. He led them in snaps by 15, playing 49 of the 61 defensive snaps. He did what he was supposed to do, clog up running lanes in the middle and provide a little pressure on passing plays. He was one of the only 2 defensive linemen to produce 1 QB pressure. Shame, shame, shame. Terrell McStain reverted back to his old self and had no impact, no tackles or pressures, just out there. Lazy McGee was effective in the run game with 8 total tackles, but contributed almost nothing to the pass rush. Anthony Lanier was the only other defensive lineman to record a QB pressure, but he had no tackles and was pretty much non-existent. And Brandon Banks, who we just signed off the practice squad the week of the game, played his first career game and had no QB pressures in his 12 snaps, but he did make a solo tackle, but he was waived by the Redskins on Tuesday. We miss Jonathan Allen and Matt Ioannidis so much. It's crazy. Ioannidis could come back against the Saints this coming weekend. That would force him to play 2 games within 5 days when we play the Giants the week after, so he's more than likely sitting out against the Saints. So it's looking ugly for us. Now these outside linebackers. Ryan Kerrigan had probably his worst game of the season. Tragic in the run game. How did he get pushed back by unknown fullbacks? Was this caused by that injury he sustained against Seattle? Was he hurt? He looked like he didn't even really try. There was no tenacity. He looked timid, like he didn't even want contact. That couldn't have been Ryan Kerrigan out there. In pass rush, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't Ryan Kerrigan. He had this one play that looked a little Ryan Kerrigan-ish with some good pressure, but Case Keenum got the ball out of his hands in time.
Guys chopped it up in the pregame show. We'll get back to that in a minute.
Keenan in trouble. Kerrigan coming on pressure. Thielen wide open, and he's got it inside the 30.
Guys chopped it up in the pregame show. We'll get back to that in a minute.
Keenan in trouble.
But for the most part, he wasn't a factor. He was barely there. He has to be hurt, and we just don't know it. He left the game for a moment last week against the Seahawks, but he came back and looked great. I don't know what happened during the week before Sunday, but something happened. And it's sad because this was the game he was supposed to shine against the least mobile quarterback we've probably played all season. We needed him this game. Our defense struggled, and it started with our playmakers in the trenches not getting enough pressure, forcing our DBs to cover longer than they're supposed to. Preston Smith was the most impactful outside linebacker against the Vikings. He only had 1 solo tackle and 1 assisted tackle, but he was the only Redskins player to get a QB hit, and he produced 3 QB pressures on just 18 pass rushing snaps. He also dominated in setting the edge and running plays. That doesn't come up in the stat book, but he did his thing against the Vikings. We appreciate you, Preston. Junior Gillette didn't get many opportunities. He only played 19 snaps, which was more than 25 less snaps than Kerrigan and Preston. And yet Gillette had 3 solo tackles, which led the outside linebacker group. Those are not enough snaps to get going with the rhythm. And with the way Ryan Kerrigan is playing lately, I want to see Junior Gillette get some more snaps and opportunities out there for real. Ryan Anderson wasn't impactful in his very limited 12 snaps. He had 1 tackle assist and didn't produce a QB pressure. But on to the inside linebacker group. Zach Brown made some plays like we expected him to, but was out of place a lot. He had this one nice blitz and tackle for loss here.
And they're going to hand it to McKinnon, who gets dropped for a loss by Zach Brown.
But for the most part, this was probably his least impactful game of the season. But he still led the team in tackles with 10, and he still leads the NFL in tackles with 96. I expect him to bounce back against the Saints, get back to that Pro Bowl level. Will Compton was pretty bad until he got hurt. He had 1 solo tackle, but was not impactful beyond that. And he has been placed on injured reserve with a Liz Frank sprain. Another one down, y'all. Shame, shame, shame. Get well soon. Montrell Spate was the best inside linebacker of the day, and maybe even the best defender overall when considering consistency and dependability throughout the entire game. After he replaced the injured Will Compton, he was only able to play 29 snaps, but he made some plays in that limited amount of time. He had 7 tackles, which led the team in tackles per opportunity rate with 23%, and even though he is 17th in defensive snaps this season, he is 4th in total tackles on our team. With Will Compton and Mason Foster on injured reserve, he will definitely get more snaps and opportunities to make plays. Let's see what you got again, Montrell. Now the cornerbacks. Breland got beat a bunch. watch. Probably his worst game of the season. Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs did whatever they wanted against him and Norman. Bashaud Breeland gave up 6 receptions for his season-high 66 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 6 times, so he gave up a reception every time he was targeted. Just ugh. He had moments where his coverage was pretty good, but he still got beat like this play here.
That was a 38-yard hook up to Thielen. Keenum firing Thielen again. He's got it again. Down to the 5.
So it was just a bad day for Breeland. Even when he was right, he was wrong. Norman got beat a lot. Worst game of the season for him also. Actually, it was his worst game as a Redskin, period, to be honest. He has been locked up until this point. He allowed all 6 of his targets to become receptions, and they went for an abysmal 131 yards and a touchdown. Horrible. Look at this play where he got worked by Stephon.
On first down, the fake. Here's Keenum, back to pass, letting it fly. Diggs is open. He's got it. Stephon Diggs diving for the end zone.
Double move coming against one of the better corners in the league, Josh Norman. Out, and then he takes it up. And when he went to the out route, he gained separation away from Josh Norman.
Tragic. Josh Norman also had a dropped interception and a missed tackle on a 3rd down play that would have ended the drive, but ended up becoming a 1st down. But there were times where he had pretty good coverage, but just got outplayed and outmanned.
In motion. Keenum, pressure from Kerrigan, steps away, fires on the run, and is caught. And steps away, fires on the run, and is caught.
See, that's the type of play we needed from our receivers that day. We would have won in spite of this terrible defensive day if our receivers made plays like that. And that was also a perfect pass from Case Keenum. But back to Norman. His coverage just wasn't there against the Vikings. But he did at least manage to record 9 tackles, which is great. But bad day, Norman. I expect you to bounce back against the Saints. Fuller was good when he could play, but couldn't play much because the Vikings ran 2 tight end sets a lot, and Kendall Fuller is a slot corner, so there was no slot receiver. He played his season low in snaps, 35. He was targeted 4 times and technically only allowed 1 reception for 9 yards. I say technically because he was technically responsible for Jarius Wright on that screen play that went for a touchdown, but the ball was thrown 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, so there was no real way for him to defend that at all. Kendall Fuller also managed to get 3 tackles in his limited snaps. Now the safeties. DJ Swearinger went crazy some plays. He had his fair share of mistakes, but for the most part, he played his tail off. All pro level at times like we expected him to be. He missed a lot of tackles, so I can't say he played an all pro game, but he had some all pro moments. He played all of the 61 defensive snaps. He had 5 tackles, including this great tackle for loss here. But we know how DJ do in the run game. But today he was out there making plays in the passing game. That man had 2 interceptions against the Vikings. His first interception was a big play. It wasn't a difficult play, but it was big for us anyway.
Keenum, blitz coming. It's picked up. He's going to throw it for Rudolph. It's up there, and it's intercepted. It was a floater, and it's picked off by Swearinger.
Good hands, DJ. And this second interception was ridiculous. This was an all-pro play here. He showed his high football IQ and his great awareness and anticipation on this play.
We start the 4th, Minnesota football. They got and it's intercepted. It's Swearinger.
So here's Swearinger, number 36 in the back. And he just reads it and goes and gets it right away. Bounds, but Case Keenum never sees Swearinger, never checks, just goes with a quick timing route to Kyle Rudolph, and Swearinger, who plays with a lot of intelligence.
Good hands again, DJ. Making plays. Sparking some life into this defense when we really needed it. The spirit of the defense, y'all. Captain of the team in his first season. Y'all can see it right there. D'Angelo Hall played bad until he got hurt. He only played 21 snaps because of his injury, so he was only able to record 3 tackles, but his coverage was questionable while he was playing. He was the free safety and allowed play actions to get him up towards the defensive line just enough to get beat on deep plays. Can't have that, D-Hall. As the deep safety, your primary responsibility is to be deep. It's in the name, deep safety. So you have to be the deepest on the field no matter what. He didn't do that on some plays and it hurt us. But he'll bounce back. He showed us against the Seahawks that he can ball out. So I have trust in him to bounce back against the Saints and play well for the rest of the season. DeShazer Everett replaced D-Hall after he got hurt, and DeShazer Everett ended up playing 38 snaps. He recorded 3 tackles but was not very impactful. We replaced a free safety with a strong safety. So that was trouble to begin with anyway. Overall, the defense played terribly in the first half and started to figure out a little bit in the second half, but it wasn't enough by then. The defensive linemen were non-impactful and couldn't get any pressure. The outside linebackers, other than Preston Smith, were also non-impactful. Montrell Spate was the only inside linebacker who played well. Kendall Fuller was schemed out of the game, and the rest of the corners let Nas down, getting exposed all game. DJ Swearinger was the only safety who showed up to play. Just ugly day, y'all. The worst our defenses looked as a collective all season. Just ugly. Now Nick Rose, he went 3 for 3 on field goals, including this 55-yarder.
Here is Rose. Kick is up. Kick has some distance. Kick is good.
Woo-wee! I think it's time to put some more trust in him. Jay Gruden showed throughout the majority of the game that he didn't trust him, going for all them 4th downs. But I can't blame him since this is Nick Rose's rookie season and he came in midway. He's only played a few games. But let me tell y'all where Jay Gruden definitely should not have trusted Nick Rose. This onside kick to give us a chance to come back. Who but?
Rose gotta go 10 yards. Not even close. That is not gonna work.
Just in case y'all didn't know, the onside kick by rule has to go at least 10 yards, and it didn't even reach 5. Nick Rose must have used up all of his strength on that 55-yard field goal kick. Gotta practice that, man. But I'm happy to see him having the leg strength and accuracy to make long field goal kicks in clutch situations too. So I see a lot of hope in this man. Tress Way was only called to punt once. We threw an interception, failed to convert a few 4th down risks we took, and we scored on all of the other drives. But the punt he had was great and looked like the old him I'm used to seeing, not the him that's been punting the past couple of weeks. He punted it for 52 yards and it was only returned 9 yards to the Minnesota 18-yard line. So it was a great punt. I see you, Tress. But that's it for this episode. Thanks for the view. Tough loss. Even with some people who played terrible, we were just a couple of plays away from beating a top 5 team in the league. We have easily had the hardest schedule in the NFL this season, and I don't use that as an excuse, but it does put things into perspective. But after this upcoming New Orleans game, we have one of the easiest remaining schedules in the league, so we have to take advantage of that. Do y'all feel this upcoming game against the Saints is a must win, or do you feel the season is already over? Let me know in the comments. Be heard, speak your truth, and make sure y'all Dolemite fake punch that like button, favorite, subscribe. I'll subscribe back, and most importantly, comment and share. And thank y'all for the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.